the 10th episode of session 2 of Thursday Live with Badr. This is a program which we're conducting on every Thursday at 1 p.m. where we get doctors from different specialty, different hospitals to talk about varied subjects of, health which we concern about you. So, like I said, we have Dr. Benny. Dr. Benny is a very senior and very acknowledged interventional cardiologist in the private healthcare sector of Oman. He's associated with us as a senior consultant interventional cardiology at Badr Sama Hospital, Rui. My name is Asif Shah, and I'm heading the branding and communication department at Badr Sama Group of Hospitals. And today, Dr. Benny is going to talk about heart attacks. So, Dr. Benny suggested that let's make this session a very interactive one. We'll not run any presentations this time. We will not run any PPTs. Interaction will be based on the question and answers and the discussions. I'll be posing a lot of questions to Dr. Benny today, and we'll be happy to hear the questions from your end as well. Kindly feel free to ask any questions using the question and answer option in Zoom, as well as we are live on the Facebook and YouTube. You can just put a comment on our live broadcast. So before we move to Dr. Benny, just a little introduction. Dr. Benny doesn't require an introduction. Everybody knows Dr. Benny. Everybody knows the kind of the quality work that he's been doing and he has done for decades in the field of cardiology at Badr Sama Hospital, Rui. Dr. Benny is a celebrated, recognized and acknowledged interventional cardiologist in the private healthcare sector of Oman. Dr. Benny has an experience of more than 25 years, and he's associated with Badr Sama Group of Hospitals for more than 1.5 decades, which means more than 15 years. And he's a man who is behind making the Department of Cardiology at Badr Sama Group of Hospitals as a center of excellence. And we are very proud that this center has grown to a stature where it has become the referral center for many of the cardiac cases from medical centers and private healthcare institutions in Oman. Dr. Benny is a very well-qualified doctor. He has done his MD in internal medicine, DM in cardiology. He has many fellowships from Asian as well as American institutions like FSCI, FACC, FAPSC, and many other fellowships. He believes in continuous development by developing skills and knowledge, and he goes and attends a lot of workshops and conferences across the world. He has written a lot of research papers in national as well as international journals. Dr. Benny, his areas of expertise, the main area of expertise is radial route intervention. That is the safest and the fastest route to your heart in case you require any patient requires any interventional procedure. He's very good at cardiac critical care, preventive cardiology, and angioplasty along with stenting. So before we move further, I would like to request you once again that we are live on Zoom, we are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube. Kindly ask the questions, kindly ask any doubts, kindly share your experiences in case you or anybody or anyone in your relationship have experienced like any such situation like for heart attack or any of the heart disease. So we'll be happy to take your questions. But at the end of the interactive session, like after I finish asking some questions to Dr. Benny and he finish the discussion, we'll take up the questions in the end. So let's move to Dr. Benny, and I thank you for joining us today. Let's move to Dr. Benny. Dr. Benny, heart attack. So we are at a case now.
I'm sorry, in the middle of this thing, suddenly something happened and I kept you waiting, but unfortunately this is life. So we have to move on, and I'm ready now to answer your question. So what's your first question?
Sir, Dr. Benny, you see, nowadays you see there are a lot of cases of heart attack. We see right now there is one case of heart attack in my knowledge also. Recently I've done like right here in Oman, in India also. Many of the news like that, this person has a heart attack. Chest pain is considered as a main symptom of heart attack. But I'm sure like chest pain not every time can be a heart attack. So how do you differentiate like which chest pain is heart attack and which is not?
That's a very good question because people perceive the chest pain because of heart attack as a pain, but actually it is not really a pain. Most often it is felt as a pressure or a burning or some squeezing sensation in the center of the chest, and it's a pain or discomfort that originates from the internal organ. So you cannot perceive as a localized pain. It's like more of a vague discomfort in the chest, a pressure sensation or a burning sensation, where the person can just vaguely indicate that I'm feeling something bad here, some discomfort. You cannot point with one finger and localize it like here, there. If you're feeling like a poking sensation, if you're feeling like a very localized one-point pain, be assured that this is not from the heart. So having said that, this pain, the characteristic pain is even it can mimic a acidity problem. Like you may feel that is an indigestion. It may feel like something like a burning sensation, but indigestion can never radiate up to your throat. So if the pain or discomfort that comes up to the throat or jaws, or if it moves to the hand, especially the inner aspect of the arms, not the outer portion. If you hear the discomfort that radiates here or the other side, it need not be on the left side. It can be even the right side. It can even to be your jaws, lower part of the jaws, and never it goes beyond the angle of your mouth. And it can be the back between the shoulder blades, and even in the lower part of chest or even in the upper abdomen, you may feel like an indigestion. You may feel like even vomiting. You may feel like sweating. You feel generally unwell, and you feel that you cannot lie down comfortably. You want to sit up, and these kind of things are happening for no reason. And if it is persists more than 10-15 minutes, preferably you suspect a heart attack and get help immediately.
Dr. Benny, thank you so much for answering this question. Now we know that there are a lot of indications which can be established. The chest pain can be established as a heart attack. Now, for example, somebody is experiencing that discomfort, that pain in the chest. So, what do you do? What is next? How do we deal with it?
So if you feel that this kind of situation, especially if you are in the coronary age, above the age of 55 or above the 45 years and 50 years and all, and if you are kind of situation and you are the high risk group means not only the age, if you're pre-existing condition, the pre-existing conditions like you are a diabetic and you are having high cholesterol, if your blood pressure is high and you are taking medication for all these things, or if you smoke, or somebody in your family had a history of heart attack at a very young age, for example, one of your relatives, we call it as first degree relatives, your parents, your brother or your sister, if it's a male below the age of 55 years, a female below the age of 65 years, then you are a potential genetic background for having a heart attack. And such person having these kind of symptoms, don't waste your time. The most important thing is if you are able to go to a hospital very fast, go as fast as you can. Because we call this situation that time is muscle. If you delay too much, the damage to the muscle will be more, and that will be a permanent damage. Once a damage happens to the cardiac muscle, it is not reversible. So our option is to prevent it from happening. So the most important option is if you have a kind of situation like this, immediately go to hospital, confirm the diagnosis and treat it as early as possible, that you open up the artery, establish the circulation so the muscle is still viable. That's the most important thing. And if you have a doubt that you will not reach early in the hospital, we say early means within 1 hour. That's the best time. We call it as a golden hour after starting of the pain. So if you delay more and more and more, you are doing harm to your muscle. So if you cannot reach within that time, and if you're quite sure that this is very unusual, it looks like a heart attack, probably there is, and you don't have any history of any bleeding disorders like gastric ulcers or like black stools or those kind of things, and you're quite sure this is the cardiac pain like what we discussed, it is radiating the throat and all, with the, preferably with the backgrounds we discussed, and you cannot reach the hospital in time, probably it's a good idea to take a dose of aspirin. And there is in the first trial where they found the benefit of aspirin, and it is compared with a clot-lysing medication like thrombolytic agent. They found that even a single humble aspirin, 300 milligram, reduces the risk by 20%. And if you give a thrombolytic treatment like a clot-lysing agent like a streptokinase, that gives a protection for 20%. And if you combine these two, you get the total benefit by 40%. So humble aspirin is not that bad. If you have these kind of symptoms, preferably take an aspirin. That aspirin also is important, not to swallow the aspirin. If you want to get an immediate effect, you should take a soluble aspirin or dispersible aspirin. And if you don't have access to that, you can chew the aspirin, bite it and crush it and chew the aspirin so that it absorbs fastly. And the dose recommended is 300 milligram. The general small baby aspirin is 75 to 81 milligram or even 100 milligram. So maybe 3 tablets of 100 milligram. That what we get here is an entry-coated one. Crush it and swallow it with water. That's the first thing you can do. And then rush to the hospital as fast as you can.
The key is to rush to the hospital as fast as you can. I would suggest that you always keep the addresses, the numbers of your medical centers around your place handy, so that in case of any emergency, you don't have to waste time, gathering all this sort of the information. So because this can be threatening, this can be life threatening. So never take it like so casually. Thank you, Dr. Mani, for this. And now medical science has done a lot of advancements. I'm sure, like, there might be a lot of like treatments available there for heart attack. I would like to ask you, what are the treatment options? How do we treat heart attack?
No, heart attack is a general term, so it encompasses broad variety of types of heart attacks. We call it as like NSTEMI and STEMI. NSTEMI means non-ST segment elevation myocardial infarction. It's too technical. NSTEMI generally means that an artery is not totally blocked. Maybe it is critically blocked, maybe more than 80%, 90%, or even 99% blocked, but still some blood flow is happening. That is usually presenting in a typical ECG pattern. We call it as NSTEMI, where you have to, you can give some medications or even you can immediately go for an angiogram, but still you have time. And there is another kind of heart attack called STEMI, or ST elevation myocardial infarction, where the artery is critically or totally blocked, 100% block, sudden occurrence of 100% block with a blood clot generally, and there is no flow beyond the block, which means that you have to open up the artery immediately. There are two ways of opening the artery in such kind of situation. One is, as I mentioned earlier, clot-lysing medications, injections. You give aspirin and other kind of antiplatelet agents, and injection which is designed to dissolve the blood clot immediately so that the blood flow is re-established. We call it as thrombolytic treatment. It has to be ideally given within 1 hour, but if you're delaying more than 3 hours, the efficacy is less. Beyond 12 hours, no benefit, because the damage is already done. But there is another a better way, is we call it as primary angioplasty, which is a mechanical revascularization, meaning that you immediately take the patient to a cath lab, you do an angiogram, find out where the block is, open by passing a balloon and dilating it and putting a stent. So immediately the artery is opened up completely, the blood flow is re-established, you are saving the muscle. And this also has to be done as fast as possible. Short as possible. So if you are not able to do this procedure within 90 minutes, it's a good idea that you thrombolyze the patient first and do the procedure later. So if you delay more than 90 minutes, your benefit of doing a primary angioplasty is lost. Better to thrombolyze or give medications to lyse the clot and then do it at your leisure at a later stage. And there also another indication, like if you give the clot lysing medication and the efficacy is not proven, still the patient is having chest pain, the artery is not open up. There are certain criteria we can know that artery is still not open, it is still closed. Then you have to do a procedure again, angioplasty immediately, because it's a rescue angioplasty. And these are the types of treatment options that are available, along with medications designed to remove the blood clot, thin the blood, and of course other medications like controlling your blood pressure and controlling your cholesterol. We need a particular group of medicine called statin that has to be loaded, and that has to be given along with other medication because it has proven to improve the outcome in the case of acute heart attacks. And then of course there is a damage to the muscle, then you have to salvage whatever that has happened, and then to prevent heart from further dilating, further reducing the pumping. So you are designed to receive medications to that and as well. So this is generally, and patient has to be in the intensive care unit for the first 24 to 48 hours. Why? Many people wonder why the patient is kept in the intensive care unit. And if you look at the complications of heart attack, in the first 1 hour, most of the deaths happen in the first 1 hour. 70% of death because of a heart attack happens in the first 1 hour. Because when you have a sudden occlusion of an artery, heart is not, accustomed to this sudden loss of blood supply. It starts electrical instability there. We call it as cardiac arrest, and heart may stop beating, or abnormal heartbeat happen, which leads to loss of consciousness, loss of circulation, because heart is not effectively pumping or contracting because of ventricular fibrillation. We call it ventricular fibrillation or electrical abnormality of the heart. Heart stops. We call it cardiac arrest in general term. Such situation, the heart stops, the circulation stops, and if this consists and progresses more than 3 minutes, you are brain dead. And if you cannot establish the circulation within a reasonable time, we cannot do anything. And this is a situation that can happen in the early hours of a heart attack. And the risk of this comes down gradually as time passes. And beyond for 24 to 48 hours, developing a cardiac arrest after heart attack is less. So during this vulnerable period, the person requires monitoring. So that's why the patient is admitted in intensive care unit, where the patient's cardiac status and heart rhythms are monitored by monitors, and his blood pressure, other things, the vital signs are monitored. Any medications to be optimized is optimized. This is the reason why the patient is inside the intensive care unit. Another thing is that suppose somebody develops a cardiac arrest, there is a process called CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, and that is immediately established by chest compressions and artificial respiration. And if identifies an abnormal heartbeat, you give a cardiac a DC shock. And this shock will revert the whatever abnormal beating and restores the heart beating, and thereby saves the person. So this is how you manage a heart attack, and this is how we manage a patient in the hospital.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Benny. So before proceeding further, I would like to request you that if you have any question, because we are almost towards the end of this session, so you can just pose your question in the question and answer section of Zoom, and since we are live on the Facebook as well, you can just put a question there. I will read those questions out for you to Dr. Benny, and he will be happy to answer all those. So many of the risk factors, they're in our hands, like sedentary lifestyles, our diet, our inactivity, our bad habits. A lot of things are there. So how do we prevent a heart attack?
Okay, before talking about prevention, let us see what exactly is a heart attack. We are talking about heart attack quite a long time, so I'll just show something like this is. Can you show this, please? Bring it down. Okay, I'll lift it up. Okay, this is a human heart. You can see the small, this is a muscle, cardiac muscle, this is the ventricle, and this is the biggest artery that arrives from the heart called an aorta. And this is the one that is supplying the blood to the all part of the body, the pure blood, oxygenated blood. And then there are small arteries that is flowing back to the heart. These small ones we are seeing here on the surface. These are called coronary arteries. And there are actually one on the left side, one on the right side. This is the right side. Right side is a right coronary artery. This is the left coronary artery, and this is the right coronary artery on this side. And the left one divides into two. So there are actually, we consider three vessels, two on the left side and one on the right side. So this is the one that is vitally supplying the muscle, the cardiac muscle blood supply and the oxygen. So suppose you can see in this picture, you can see a lumen of an artery. This is a normal artery, which is a smooth lumen. When there is a cholesterol deposit inside the artery, it becomes like this, a plaque. This is called a plaque, and the artery becomes narrow. And this narrowed area is not sufficiently enough to supply blood to the cardiac muscle. If you look here, there are cross sections of the blood vessels. It's a normal blood vessel, it's a normal clean arterial lumen. There is some kind of small deposit here. It progresses more, and you see a large occlusion. And generally what happens is that in a case of heart attacks, people will not have any chest pain in the beginning. They suddenly have a massive chest pain and heart attack. Why it happens like that? If you look at it, these small plaques, what happens, it is an inflamed plaque, suddenly it can burst, and this causes a sudden blood clot within the lumen, and this blood clots suddenly closes the artery. This is the cause of, we call it a plaque rupture and sudden thrombosis, which causes an acute heart attack. So this is what really happens. So how can we prevent this from happening? So we were talking about the risk factors before, like your age, your genetics, your sex. We call it just sex means male people. Men are more likely to have this problem earlier than women. Women or ladies are protected from the heart attack at an early age because of their hormonal status. They get it at least 10 years after their stopping of menstruation, that is about 65 years, unless they have multiple risk factors like diabetes. So these things, the irreversible or the non-modifiable risk factors, age, sex, and heredity. Other than that, there are other risk factors that we can really modify, like high cholesterol, your lifestyle, sedentary lifestyle, lack of exercise, bad habits like bad food habits, and then smoking, high blood sugar, high blood pressure. These things are modifiable risk factors. If you modify them and optimize them, then your chance of having a heart attack is much less compared to unmodified and bad lifestyle. So this is number one thing that prevents these plaques with whatever I showed, this cholesterol deposit I showed, to prevent it from happening. So that is number one thing. This is how you do. And what are other things? What do you do in the diet? Your diet is like you should have a balanced diet, avoid overweight, getting overweight. Especially the overweight means we have two types of overweight. Like one that is abdominal area, we call it just the truncal obesity. Other one is in the thigh and lower part. The abdominal obesity is the riskiest one, which causes more of problems like heart attack and diabetes. So eating a balanced low calorie diet and keeping the ideal body weight, exercising at least 30 minutes a day, aerobic exercise like walking, cycling, swimming, and that is about 5 days a week. And at least 2 days resistance exercise like weightlifting or Surya Namaskar or push-ups, because it increases the muscle tension. This also is important because when you get older, your muscles become atrophied and your muscle is replaced by fat. So if you do a proper resistance exercise, your muscles are prescribed, which is very vital to keep your metabolic parameters optimum, to control your blood sugar and keep your weight. Because when you have good muscle mass, muscle is a leaf tissue. What happens is the muscle requires oxygen and metabolism requires calories. So it burns calories even at rest. So if you have more muscle means you will burn more calories. You are less likely to gain weight. So keep up this exercise program. Avoid smoking. Smoking is a very dangerous habit. Whatever we see here, people at a young age who present with heart attacks, most of them are smokers. We have people at 30s and late 20s coming with heart attack because they are heavy smokers. And lifestyle, I already said, I told you about the exercise, diet, have a balanced diet which are actually less in fat and good in fish, marine triglycerides. We call it as omega-3 fatty acids. They are good for heart and like fish, and a lot of vegetables and fruits, which also will help you protect you from heart attack because they contain a lot of antioxidants which scavenges the free radicals. That is what is one of the factors that leads to plaque formation. So these are the basic things you can do to prevent a heart attack and basically to live a healthy life.
Thank you, sir. This was really beneficial. Diet and exercise and a lot of other factors where you can really control. You can really help yourself not actually get into a situation like this, a very critical situation. So we should adopt very healthy practices.
I think I have to add certain points because we are talking about lifestyle alone, because we are talking about other risk factors like diabetes, hypertension, and high cholesterol. If you're having these beyond a certain point, and if you're not able to modify them with your diet and activity, it's a good idea and a wise idea to start medication. Don't delay medication. You consult a good doctor, get his opinion, modify them, because if your cholesterol is gone uncontrolled beyond a certain degree, it can cause blocks. If your diabetes is uncontrolled and your average diabetic control is beyond certain degree, that's one of the major risk factors for having heart attack. So you have to take proper medication to control the diabetes. If your pressure is going beyond certain degree, if you don't know your numbers, check it and correct it. These are all ways of preventing heart attacks from happening and saving your life and having a happy, healthy, and long life.
Yeah, don't ignore any symptoms and just focus more on the preventive healthcare. You should go for regular screening, yearly health checkups. That will definitely help you a lot, not just for this but many other diseases. And I thank Dr. Benny also. He has demonstrated with the help of these models, what impact does a heart attack, what impact does these cardiovascular disease do in a heart, because not most of the people know about this arteries, occlusion, blockades, and all about the procedures which you do to actually save this. There is one question from Dr. Nupur, sir. There have been incidences of heart attacks, heart diseases in a very early age groups now. I've seen recently in India, I've heard about a case. Angioplasty was performed on a youth of just 16 years of age. So what are the reasons for this? Why is this age becoming so less for this heart disease? And is there any way? I'm sure some part you covered into adopting healthy lifestyle and diets and exercise and other things, but particularly in this age group.
As I told, we are talking about the risk factors, modifiable and non-modifiable risk factors. If you are having a heart attack at the age of 16 years and all, most likely there is a genetic abnormality. We call this familial hyperlipidemia, where there are genetic variations which causes high cholesterol and certain conditions like thick blood and these kind of situations. If you remember the Amitabh Bachchan's movie where there's a young boy having aging, I don't remember the name of the movie, because there's certain situations or conditions called progeria, meaning that premature aging. Like you look at a boy at that particular movie, the boy at around 6 years or 10 years, he looks like 70 years, very old. Amitabh Bachchan's movie. That's a classical example of premature aging, and most of those people, premature aging syndrome or progeriac syndromes, people die of heart attacks because you not only age outside, you age inside. So if your skin is also aging, means that your arteries are also aging. So these are all genetic, part of it is genetic factors, so which we cannot modify. But definitely you should modify the other risk factors I was telling you. The way of lifestyle as well as the way of controlling your risk factors is actually making you keep younger, inside, outside. So this is one of the most important key messages I want to give you. And then you are talking about early onset. What we see here in Gulf areas, what we see is that whatever we compare, very interesting to find that we have seen that in India, when we go back to India, your onset of heart attacks are actually, all these kind of events are around 10 years later than what we see here because of various factors. Maybe your lifestyle here more sedentary lifestyle, your food is very rich, and your stress levels are very high. People start smoking, and lack of exercise is one of the major things. You go to a fast food restaurant, have your KFCs or whatever it is, and eat, and then drive your car, go home and do nothing, go and sleep. Next time when this routine starts, go to the office, you are fired by your boss, your stress levels goes up, and these things lead to a lot of problems. Probably that is one of the reasons why this is happening.
I'm sure that this is the reason. If you see around, nowadays you see many of the people, kids spending a lot of time on the screen. Screen time has gone up. They get mobile phones and all these gadgets too early in their life, like where we used to get it like very late. So and then physical activity is nowhere. A lot of stress is there. It's very important to maintain a perfect work-life balance, because ultimately you're living for yourself, and keeping yourself healthy is the key. So Dr. Benny, has listed down a lot of things. If you're able to start that habit, start that routine from now only, so definitely it's going to help you. It's going to help your future generations as well. One question from Mr. Suish: is it advisable to go for angiography if you want to just clear the doubt that you have any symptoms of heart attack?
That is a good question. Many people come and ask, "Can I have an angiogram?" Angiogram is not a panacea. You are not supposed to do an angiogram if there are no clear indication. It's an invasive test. And you go by other things like non-invasive screening. You go by your symptoms, you go by your risk factors, and you test like an ECG and analyze the doctor will check the risk profile of a person, and then do the other basic test like an ECG, and probably you do a stress test, do an echo and all, and still your confusion is still there. There's a strong suspicion of a problem in the heart. That's the time you go for an invasive process called an angiogram. Because any angiogram, any invasive process, angiogram means it involves puncturing your artery and passing a small catheter into the heart and injecting a dye. Each of these processes carries a small risk. So unless the risk and benefit is balanced, so your risk of doing an angiogram, you say about 0.3% risk of a problem. And if your risk of not doing an angiogram exceeds that, definitely it is warranted that you go for an angiogram as soon as possible. But your risk of waiting is much less than this 0.3%. Why should you go for unnecessary risk? You are not supposed to go for an angiogram. You do other non-invasive tests, like stress test, an echo, which are fairly, harmless procedures. You do that and see it. If it is really required, of course, you should go for it.
Dr. Mani, do you remember I asked you the similar kind of question 2 days back? So this question makes the rounds like in everybody's mind. So whether we should go for angiography to do this, like Dr. Benny said that there are many other ways that we could actually diagnose, many other diagnostic modalities that we could.
For that matter, can I interrupt for a minute? For that matter, many people think that angiogram is the only test to find the blockage. In fact, it is not. Someone comes with a typical chest pain. I can see where the block itself, I can predict where the block itself by looking at the ECG itself. It will tell you, ECG will tell you. The symptoms will tell you whether you have a block or not, whether you require an angiogram or not. And then angiogram is for planning the treatment. You already know that there is a block. There's no need for going for an angiogram to find the block. You know there is a block. Then angiogram will help you to quantify the block, where exactly the block, what has to be done. That is the purpose of doing an angiogram.
Dr. Saad is asking, the cost of thrombolysis is a little higher, so we directly send the patient for PCIs. So do you think that it's okay?
It's okay, but right now the issue is that how fast we can, I try to answer that question, how far we can mobilize our resources to do the angiogram within the period of 90 minutes. And especially in this period of pandemic, we have seen many people having corona coming and presenting like acute myocardial infarctions, because corona, as you know, it is a disease that causes blood clotting, and it can clot in the coronary arteries, and the COVID infection can present like just like a heart attack. We have seen a couple of patients like that. They don't have any other symptoms. They present with heart attacks. When you do an angiogram, there is a lot of clot, and when by the time the reports come like corona test, it is positive. So it's a COVID presenting like an acute heart attack. So we should be very careful in dealing with patients coming with chest pain, especially with no risk factors. We generally do a RT-PCR. So we are a little reluctant these days to go for primary angioplasty in an untested individual because of obvious reasons. So we always send for RT-PCR in a stable patient. We thrombolize first. That is well over the norm now. Thrombolize them first and then go for an angiogram as soon as we get the result of RT-PCR. Unless the patient is unstable, unless he is in cardiogenic shock, unless life-threatening situations, then of course you have to go for an interventional procedure immediately. But if you're confident, you can plan and you can really take proper precautions. You are not the only person involved. Your team is also important, and your nurses, your other people inside the ICU, your cath lab, all these things has to be protected from a cross infection. So you can ensure all these things properly. It's a good idea. It's always better to go for an angiogram and primary angioplasty in the beginning. That too, if the resources you can organize within the 90 minutes.
Yes. So we always learn by the experience. Today, you see, like Dr. Benny has shared a lot of information, a lot of things like, which always comes to us as a doubt. So this is what experience can do. And I thank everyone to make this session very interactive, and very nice questions have been asked in today's session. And thank you so much for this. We have come to the end of today's session, Thursday Live with Badr. And at the end, I would like to thank and express my gratitude to Dr. Benny Pinnacle, our Senior Consultant Interventional Cardiologist at Badr Sama Hospital, Rogi, for sparing time after a life-saving procedure. That case, like I told you earlier, it was brought here as a heart attack, and he has saved the life before coming to this session. And thank you so much, sir. Yeah, I would like
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have this session, and it's really enlightening, and I hope that it is helpful to people. So we should have more sessions, and in coming sessions we will discuss more. This is what I am going to think.
Yes, okay. Of course. Cardiology is a very broader specialty. There are many topics. There are many things like where we can actually have a good discussion. And definitely we'll keep on requesting, and we'll keep on inviting Dr. Benny to these programs. Like we are inviting the other doctors speaking about other subjects about your health. So this is a CSR initiative by Badr Sama Hospitals. We care for you. We want you to be healthy. We don't want you to come to the hospital and get treated or reach to any any life-threatening stage. So take care of yourself. Adopt a good lifestyle. If you face any kind of the difficulty, if you can face any sort of the symptoms, don't delay. Come to the hospital and get yourself checked. Don't waste time in just managing anything at your own. So it's always good to seek a consultation from an expert. So in the end, I would like to say that more sessions like this are going to come up in Thursday Live with Badr. Next Thursday, we'll have some other doctor talking on another subject. You'll get the information from our Facebook handle. We regularly keep on posting the event details there. And today, I would like to thank all of you. We had a very good participation on on Zoom as well as Facebook. I see a lot of people showing their interest for this subject, and definitely why not, because this concerns everyone. There are cases like this. So thank you so much for joining us today. I wish you a very happy weekend. Have a good time. See you again next time, inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.